"You signed her death warrant," the little girl said to the millionaire, then revealed something terrible. "Leave a comment saying what you thought of this story with a rating from 0 to 10 and tell me which city you're watching from. I really want to know if you liked my story and get to know you better. So subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help." The Tuesday afternoon was unfolding with its usual routine at Anderson Premier Motors, located on the bustling North Main Street in Dayton. Jacob Anderson, at 52, was meticulously organizing sales contracts in his glass-walled office, each document aligned with millimeter precision. His graying hair was perfectly combed, his dress shirt starched without a single wrinkle, a reflection of the obsession with control he had developed over the last 15 years. The sound of the main door bursting open made Jacob look up from his papers. What he saw left him completely paralyzed. A small girl, no more than 4 years old, burst into the showroom with bare, dirty feet, disheveled hair, and a torn dress. Her brown eyes shone with a determination that contrasted with her fragile size. "You signed her away? You mean man?" shouted Chloe, extending a trembling little finger in Jacob's direction. Her childish voice echoed through the room, causing everyone present, 3 customers, 2 salesmen, and the receptionist, Martha, to turn, stupefied, to the scene. Jacob slowly rose from his chair, his heart racing. The girl continued to point at him, tears beginning to stream down her dirty little face. "Grandma Eleanor said you signed it. She said you made her go away." The name hit Jacob like a lightning bolt. Eleanor. A vague, distant memory from his childhood in Columbus began to form in his mind, but he quickly pushed it away. It couldn't be the same person. "Little girl, what are you doing here?" asked Adam Sinclair, Jacob's brother-in-law and business partner, approaching the child with an irritated expression. "Where are your parents?" "I don't have parents," Chloe replied, wiping her nose on the sleeve of her dirty t-shirt. "I only had Grandma Eleanor, but she went away because of him." She pointed again at Jacob, who remained motionless behind his desk. Martha, the receptionist, tried to approach gently. "Honey, how did you get here? Are you lost?" "I'm not lost. Grandma Eleanor always talked about this store. She always showed those pictures of her with him when they were little." Chloe looked directly at Jacob. "She said you were her little grandson who never came to visit anymore." The world seemed to spin around Jacob. Little grandson. That's what his maternal grandmother used to call him when he was a child. But that was impossible. His grandmother had moved away when he was a teenager, and they had lost contact decades ago. "Listen here, kid," Adam said impatiently. "You're confusing people. Jacob doesn't know any Eleanor." "Yes, he does," shouted Chloe, running towards Jacob. "She showed me the pictures. She said you fell off your bike and hurt your knee when you were 8 years old." Jacob felt his legs weaken. The scar on his right knee, the result of a bicycle fall as a child, was something only his maternal grandmother knew about. He had never told that story to anyone, not even his wife, Wendy. "How do you know that?" Jacob murmured, his voice barely audible. Before Chloe could answer, the sound of sirens began to approach. Someone had called the authorities. In a few minutes, 2 social workers from Child Protective Services entered the dealership, accompanied by a police officer. "Chloe Sanders," said one of the social workers. "We found her. She ran away from the shelter again this morning." The girl hid behind one of the display cars, trembling. "I don't want to go back. I just wanted to talk to him. Grandma Eleanor said he would help me." "Calm down, sweetie," said the social worker, crouching down to the child's level. "Let's talk calmly, okay?" Jacob watched the scene in a state of shock. The girl was clearly traumatized, but her words made impossible connections to his past. How did she know intimate details of his childhood? Who was this Eleanor she mentioned with such affection? "Sir," the social worker addressed Jacob, "do you know this child?" No," Jacob replied hesitantly. "I've never seen her before, but she's talking about things." About things only my grandmother knew, he completed mentally, unable to verbalize it. Adam approached the authorities. Look, this girl showed up here screaming and accusing my brother-in-law of absurd things. We have nothing to do with this. Chloe began to cry louder as the social worker tried to pick her up. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted him to know that Grandma Eleanor went away. She always said he would come back. The child's words echoed in the tense silence of the dealership. Jacob felt an immense weight in his chest, a mixture of confusion, fear, and something he couldn't identify. Guilt, perhaps. When the CPS workers finally managed to take Chloe away, she turned one last time to Jacob. Grandma Eleanor said you would remember. She said you would come back home. After everyone left, the dealership fell into a deathly silence. The customers had left awkwardly, and the employees returned to their tasks with curious glances. Adam approached Jacob, who remained standing in the same spot. What was that craziness? Adam said, trying to downplay the situation. A disturbed child, clearly. We should forget about this and get back to work. But Jacob couldn't forget. The name Eleanor resonated in his mind like a distant echo. The scar on his knee, the photos the girl mentioned, the affectionate term little grandson, all of it awakened memories he had buried long ago. That night, in his house in the Oakwood suburbs, Jacob barely touched his dinner. Wendy, his wife of 20 years, noticed his restlessness. What happened today? You've been strange since you got home. A child showed up at the dealership, Jacob replied, poking distractedly at his plate of meatloaf and mashed potatoes. A child. A 4-year-old girl. She was saying things. Things about my childhood. Wendy frowned. They had never been able to have children, a frustration that had created a silent barrier between them over the years. Any mention of children made her uncomfortable. What kind of things? About my maternal grandmother, Eleanor. Jacob, you know your grandmother moved away decades ago. You lost contact. I know, he murmured, but this girl, she knew things that only my grandmother knew. Wendy sighed. Maybe it's a coincidence. Children say all sorts of things. But Jacob knew it wasn't a coincidence. There was something about that child, in the way she had looked at him, in the certainty in her voice, that deeply troubled him. And for the first time in 15 years, since he had lost everything in that failed business venture that had left him traumatized about making important decisions, he felt he had to do something. He had to find out who Chloe Sanders was and how she knew secrets from his past that he himself had forgotten. 2 weeks had passed since Chloe's disturbing appearance at the dealership, but Jacob couldn't erase that scene from his mind. Every night was tormented by confusing dreams where a child screamed his name and a female voice whispered, "My little grandson," in his ears. During the day, he tried to focus on sales and the obsessive organization of his documents, but any sudden movement or child's voice near the dealership made him jump. That Thursday morning, while reviewing the previous week's contracts for the 3rd time, Martha knocked on his office door with a worried expression. "Mr. Anderson, there's a lady here who wants to speak with you. She says she's from Child Protective Services." Jacob's heart raced. "Send her in." Bernadette Foster was a middle-aged woman with brown hair tied in a bun, wearing a navy blue blazer and carrying a folder of documents. Her kind yet determined eyes analyzed Jacob as she sat in the chair in front of his desk. "Mr. Anderson, my name is Bernadette Foster, a social worker with CPS. I came to talk about Chloe Sanders." "The girl who showed up here," Jacob said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Exactly. I need you to tell me exactly what she said that day. Every detail could be important." Jacob took a deep breath. "She said I had signed her away. Someone named Grandma Eleanor. She said I knew this person since I was a child and mentioned a scar I have on my knee." Bernadette made notes on her pad. Is there anything else? Any other detail that might seem insignificant? She said there were pictures of us when we were little, and that her, Grandma Eleanor, always talked about this dealership. Mr. Anderson, Chloe has run away from the shelter 3 times in the last 2 weeks. The revelation hit Jacob like a punch. All 3 times she tried to come back here. Yesterday, we found her sleeping under one of the cars in your parking lot. That's impossible. We have night security. The guard said she hid behind the dumpsters until he made his rounds, then crawled under the white Corolla. Jacob remembered the car. It was one of the oldest on the lot, pushed to the side of the building. But why would she come back here? That's the exact question I need to answer. Bernadette leaned forward. Mr. Anderson, I've managed to get some information about Chloe's history. Until 3 months ago, she lived with an elderly woman named Eleanor Mendez in a small shack in the Progress Park neighborhood. The surname struck Jacob like a hammer blow. Mendez. It was his mother's maiden name. His maternal grandmother was Eleanor Mendez. Are you all right, sir? Bernadette asked, noticing Jacob's sudden pallor. That name is very familiar. Miss Eleanor was admitted to Mercy General Hospital 3 months ago with heart complications. Chloe was alone for 2 days until neighbors called CPS. She's been in our custody ever since, but she refuses to tell us anything about her family or how she knew Eleanor. And Ms. Eleanor, how is she? Bernadette lowered her eyes. Mr. Anderson, Ms. Eleanor passed away a month ago. Heart problems. The world collapsed around Jacob. If it really was his grandmother, he had lost the chance to see her again forever. The guilt he had carried for years of family estrangement intensified overwhelmingly. Can I see Chloe? He asked in a trembling voice. That's exactly why I'm here. She refuses to talk to anyone. But yesterday, when we brought her back, she said something strange. Bernadette consulted her notes. She said, Grandma Eleanor's little grandson is coming to get me because she said he has a mark on his knee that looks like a little bird. Jacob automatically brought his hand to his right knee. The scar from the bicycle fall did have a peculiar shape, which his grandmother used to say looked like a small bird in flight. Mr. Anderson, do you have any mark on your knee? With trembling hands, Jacob rolled up his pant leg, revealing the white, irregularly shaped scar. Bernadette observed it closely. It really does look like a bird, she murmured. Mr. Anderson, I need to be direct with you. It's possible that Chloe is genuinely related to your family in some way. Can I take you to meet her officially? The drive to the municipal shelter took 20 minutes, but it felt like an eternity for Jacob. His hands sweated as he drove his silver Civic, following Bernadette's official car. With every block, the memories of his childhood with Grandma Eleanor became more vivid. The afternoons making cookies in her small kitchen, the stories she told about magical birds, the gentle way she treated his scraped knee. The Oakwood Children's Shelter was a low-rise building painted a pale yellow, with a small playground in the front yard. Bernadette led him through hallways that smelled of disinfectant and home-cooked meals until they reached a recreation room where about 15 children were playing under supervision. Chloe was sitting alone in a corner, drawing with crayons on a crumpled piece of paper. She was wearing a donated light pink dress, but her hair remained rebellious and her large eyes carried a sadness too deep for such a young child. Chloe, Bernadette called gently, there's someone here who would like to meet you. The girl looked up, and upon seeing Jacob, her little face lit up with a mixture of hope and recognition. Grandma Eleanor's little grandson, she shouted, running towards him. Jacob knelt, and Chloe threw herself into his arms with a surprising strength for her size. The scent of her hair, a mix of children's shampoo and something indefinable that reminded him of mornings at his grandmother's house, moved him deeply. "Grandma Eleanor said you would come," Chloe whispered in his ear. "She said you were just lost, but you would remember her." "Why, how did you know my grandmother, little one?" Jacob asked, struggling to keep his voice steady. "She found me when I was all alone on the street. My mom, Christine, left and didn't come back. Grandma Eleanor took me to her house and said I was her granddaughter of the heart." Bernadette watched the interaction with professional interest. The connection between them was undeniable, but there were still many questions to be answered. "Chloe," Bernadette said, "can you tell Mr. Anderson how Grandma Eleanor used to talk about him?" Chloe's eyes sparkled. "She had a little box under her bed with pictures of him when he was little like me. Every night before sleeping, she would look at the pictures and say, 'My little grandson will come back one day, and when he does, he'll take care of us.'" The words hit Jacob like daggers. His grandmother had waited for him all those years, keeping his photos, dreaming of a reunion that never happened. "Did she say anything else about me?" he asked, his voice choked with emotion. "She said you were very smart and had a big store with pretty cars, and that you hurt your knee when you were little. Just like I hurt my elbow when I fell down the stairs." Chloe showed a small scratch on her arm. "Grandma Eleanor said that people who get hurt know how to take care of other people who get hurt." In that moment, Jacob understood that his life had changed forever. It didn't matter what the legal complications were, how Wendy would react, or the implications for his business. This child was the last link to his grandmother, the chance for redemption that fate was offering him. "Bernadette," he said, still hugging Chloe, "what do I need to do to start the custody process?" The social worker smiled for the first time since they had met. "We'll talk about that calmly. But first, you need to understand that it will be a long and complex road. Chloe is not officially an orphan. Her biological mother is missing, not dead. But Grandma Eleanor said her little grandson would take care of me," Chloe interrupted, squeezing Jacob's neck tighter. "She said it was a promise." As he left the shelter that afternoon, Jacob knew he would face resistance from Adam, and especially from Wendy. But for the first time in 15 years, he felt he was making an important decision that came from the heart, not from fear. The revelation about Eleanor and the process of seeking custody of Chloe created a silent storm in Jacob's life. The night after the meeting at the shelter, he sat at the dinner table with Wendy, trying to find the words to explain his decision. The plate of lasagna grew cold in front of him as he watched his wife methodically cut small pieces of food, a habit she had developed in recent years when she was nervous. "Wendy, I need to tell you about the girl who showed up at the dealership." She looked up but continued to chew slowly. "That disturbed child you mentioned? She's not disturbed. She's the adoptive granddaughter of my grandmother, Eleanor." Wendy's fork stopped in midair. "Jacob, your grandmother died years ago. You said yourself you lost contact when you were a teenager." "I thought so. But she was alive, living here in Dayton, and she was taking care of this girl." Jacob took a deep breath. "Wendy, I want to start the process of getting custody of Chloe." The silence that followed was deafening. Wendy put her fork down with such force that the plate clinked. Her eyes, normally sweet, flashed with a contained fury that Jacob knew well. "You've gone completely insane." Her voice was low, dangerous. 20 years trying to have a child of our own. 20 years of doctors, treatments, disappointments. And now you want to bring a strange child into our home? She's not a stranger. She's family. Family. Wendy stood up abruptly. "Jacob, you haven't seen this grandmother in decades. You know nothing about this child, where she came from, what kind of life she's had. I know she's suffered. I know she's alone. And I know my grandmother took care of her when no one else would." Wendy laughed bitterly. "Of course. The great Wendy, who could never give her husband a child, now has to accept any child that appears in his life. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. She slammed her hand on the table. You think I don't see how you look at me when we pass families with children? You think I don't feel the disappointment in your eyes every time a test comes back negative? Jacob stood up, trying to reach for his wife's hand, but she pulled away. Wendy, this has nothing to do with you not being able to have children. It has everything to do with it. Tears began to stream down her face, and the worst part is you didn't even consult me. You decided on your own, just like you always do when something is important. That same night, while Wendy locked herself in the bedroom, Jacob drove to the Progress Park neighborhood. He wanted to see where his grandmother had spent her final years, where Chloe had grown up. The neighborhood was humble, with small houses and unpaved streets. The GPS led him to a narrow little street where he found the number Bernadette had written down for him. The house was indeed a shack, built with wood and fiber cement roofing. It was abandoned, with the door ajar, swinging in the wind. Jacob parked and, after hesitating for a few minutes, decided to go inside. The interior was small but organized. A tiny kitchen with a gas stove and a small refrigerator, a living room with an old but clean sofa, and a bedroom in the back. In the bedroom, Jacob found the box Chloe had mentioned. Under the simple bed, a shoebox held treasures that made his heart race. Photos of him from his childhood, some he didn't even remember existed. Him at 5, riding a bike. At 8, with a bandaged knee after the fall. At 12, at a birthday party. All the photos had notes on the back in his grandmother's shaky handwriting. My dear little grandson, Jacob at 6, last photo before the move. But what impacted him most were the drawings. Dozens of drawings made with colored pencils, clearly by the hand of a small child. Drawings of a tall man in a suit next to a little girl. Drawings of colorful cars, drawings of a family, an elderly woman, a child, and an adult man, all smiling. At the bottom of the box, a yellowed envelope caught his attention. Inside, a letter written in the calligraphy he immediately recognized. My dearest grandson, Jacob. If you are reading this, it means you found me or someone led you here. I know you must be confused and perhaps angry with me for not trying to make contact. The truth is, I did try, my boy. I tried many times. I sent letters to your dealership for 5 years. They all came back with the information that you had moved. I went in person twice, but a blonde man said you didn't work there anymore, and he didn't know where you had gone. I found little Chloe 2 years ago, abandoned on the church steps. Her mother, Christine, was my neighbor. A good girl, but with problems. She said she had to travel for work and would be back in a few days. She never came back. Chloe reminds me of you when you were little. Stubborn, affectionate, full of questions. She knows all about you because I tell her stories about us every night. It's my way of keeping you alive in my heart. If something happens to me, take care of her, my grandson. She is a special girl, just as you always were. And forgive this old heart for not insisting more on finding you. With eternal love, Grandma Eleanor. Jacob collapsed onto the floor of the empty room, the letter trembling in his hands. His grandmother had tried to find him for years, and someone had intercepted those attempts. The blonde man could only be Adam. The next day, Jacob arrived at the dealership with a determination he hadn't felt in a long time. He found Adam in his office, reviewing the week's sales. Adam, I need to ask you a question, and I want the truth. His brother-in-law looked up from the papers. Of course, Jacob, what is it? In the last 5 years, did you receive any letters or visits from an elderly woman looking for me? Adam's expression changed subtly. Letters? I don't remember any specific letters. Adam. Jacob's voice was low, dangerous. A woman named Eleanor Mendez, my grandmother. Ah, yes. Adam leaned back in his chair. There were a few attempts at contact, yes. But Jacob, you were going through that rough patch after the bad business deal. I thought it was best not to bother you with distant relatives. Distant relatives. Jacob approached the desk. She was my grandmother, Adam. A humble woman basically begging, said she had a child to care for. I thought they were scammers, you know how it is. The letters, Adam. What did you do with the letters? Adam sighed. Jacob, you were building a new life. Wendy and you were trying to have kids. The company was growing. I thought it would be better not to dig up the past. You didn't have that right. Jacob slammed his fist on the desk. You didn't have the right to decide for me. I protected you. I protected our company. Imagine if that woman showed up here with a child, asking for financial help. The clients would see, the competition would use it against us. The coldness in Adam's voice revealed a side of his brother-in-law that Jacob had never noticed before. You care more about appearances than about family. Family? Adam laughed. Jacob, you hadn't seen this woman in 20 years, and now you want to throw it all away for a child that isn't even yours. She's my responsibility. Responsibility? Adam stood up. Your responsibility is to this company, to Wendy, to the future we built together, not to ghosts from the past. That afternoon, Jacob visited the shelter again. Chloe ran into his arms as soon as she saw him, and this time he hugged her without reservation. Grandma Eleanor's little grandson, you came back. I came back, little one, and I came to tell you that I'm going to take care of you, just like Grandma Eleanor asked. But when Bernadette called him for a private conversation, things got complicated in a way he didn't expect. Mr. Anderson, we have a problem. We managed to track down Christine Sanders, Chloe's biological mother. Jacob's heart sank. Where is she? New York, working as a housekeeper, and according to information we received this morning, she's on her way to Dayton. She wants her daughter back. The arrival of Christine Sanders in Dayton happened on a rainy September morning, exactly 8 months after Chloe had appeared at the dealership. Jacob was at the shelter when Bernadette received the call informing them that the girl's biological mother had arrived at the bus station and was on her way to CPS. How did she find us? Jacob asked, watching Chloe play in the yard with other children. Apparently, someone from New York called her and told her that her daughter was in a shelter here. We're investigating who made that contact. Bernadette paused. Mr. Anderson, I need to prepare you. Legally, the biological mother has priority in custody. An hour later, Christine Sanders entered the shelter, accompanied by a lawyer Jacob didn't recognize. She was a young woman, appearing to be 25. Too thin, with deep dark circles under her eyes and simple but clean clothes. Her eyes immediately searched for Chloe. Where is my daughter? She asked in a trembling voice. Bernadette led her to the recreation room, where Chloe was playing with a doll on the floor. Upon seeing her mother, the girl's reaction was devastating. Instead of running to her, Chloe hid behind Jacob, clinging to his legs tightly. Mom, Chloe whispered, but her voice carried fear instead of joy. Chloe, my love, Mommy's back. Christine knelt, holding out her arms. I came to get you so we can go home. I don't want to go. The girl's voice was almost inaudible. I want to stay with Grandma Eleanor's little grandson. Christine looked at Jacob for the first time, trying to understand the connection between them. Who are you? Why is my daughter calling you that? My name is Jacob Anderson. Chloe is the adoptive granddaughter of my grandmother, who took care of her when you left. Your grandmother? Christine's eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Eleanor was your grandmother. She always talked about a little grandson. I didn't know she was alive until Chloe showed up at my dealership. I found out my grandmother had tried to contact me for years. Christine approached Chloe again, but the girl shrank even further behind Jacob. Why did you leave? Chloe asked, her her big eyes full of hurt. Grandma Eleanor cried a lot. I cried a lot. I had to work, my love. I needed to earn money to take care of you. Oh, but you never came back. Grandma Eleanor said you would be back in a few days. At that moment, Christine's lawyer spoke up. With all due respect, emotional issues aside, we have a mother here who wants her daughter back. That is her legal right. Bernadette intervened. Dr. Morris, there is an ongoing investigation. It's not that simple. Over the next week, the legal battle intensified. Jacob hired his own lawyer and discovered disturbing details about Christine's disappearance. Through investigations, he learned that she had been blackmailed by Adam, who had discovered her undocumented work situation in New York and threatened to report her if she didn't leave Dayton. The revelation came when Christine, pressed during a hearing, confessed the truth. I didn't want to leave Chloe. A man from the dealership approached me and said that if I didn't leave town, he would report me to labor enforcement. He said I would be arrested and Chloe would go to an orphanage. Jacob felt the world collapse. What man? A blonde man, well-dressed. He said he knew you and that you didn't want poor people disturbing your business. Adam, the same man who had intercepted his grandmother's letters, had now destroyed Chloe's family to protect the company's reputation. That night, Jacob confronted Adam at his house. Why did you do that to Christine? Why did you destroy that family's life? Adam was drinking beer on the porch, and his response was cold and calculated. Because that woman was a problem waiting to happen. A single, poor mother with no resources. If she stayed, sooner or later, she would show up at the dealership asking for help. It would tarnish our image. Our image? Jacob laughed bitterly. You destroyed a family for the sake of image. I protected our investments. I protected the future of this company. And now that everything has come to light. Adam stood up, stumbling slightly. Now you're obsessed with a child who isn't even your blood. You're neglecting the company, fighting with Wendy, destroying everything we've built. What we built was based on lies and manipulation. It was based on intelligence and ambition. Adam threw the beer bottle on the floor, but you were always too weak to understand that. The next morning, Jacob made the most difficult decision of his life. He arrived at the dealership and called a meeting with all the employees. As of today, I am selling my share of the company to Adam. Our partnership has come to an end. The news shocked everyone, but Jacob was determined. He would use the money from the sale to start over, this time prioritizing family over appearances. The battle for Chloe's custody lasted another 3 months. During this period, something unexpected happened. Wendy, who had initially opposed the idea of adoption, began visiting Chloe at the shelter. The connection between them was immediate and transformative. Why do you want to stay with Aunt Wendy and Grandma Eleanor's little grandson? Bernadette asked during one of the counseling sessions. Because they look at me the same way Grandma Eleanor did, Chloe replied. With love. And Aunt Wendy said she wants to teach me how to make cookies just like Grandma did. Christine, accompanied by a psychologist, also went through a process of self-evaluation. During months of therapy, she recognized that her abandonment had deeply traumatized her daughter. I love her, she said during the final hearing. But I understand that love doesn't erase what I did. Chloe needs stability, people who will never abandon her. The court's decision was historic. Christine would retain supervised visitation rights, but permanent custody would go to Jacob and Wendy. The judge considered not only the established emotional bond, but also the stability the couple could offer. The day Chloe finally went home with them, Jacob first took her to the cemetery where Eleanor was buried. The girl placed a drawing on the grave, a drawing of 3 people holding hands under a blue sky. Grandma Eleanor, your little grandson really came, And he brought Aunt Wendy too. Now we're a family, just like you said would happen. Wendy, who was standing beside him, held Jacob's hand. In recent months, she had discovered that motherhood could come in unexpected ways, and that love for a child did not depend on blood ties. "Jacob," she whispered, "I think your grandmother planned all of this from the beginning." He smiled, watching Chloe talk to the grave as if Eleanor were still there. "I think you're right. She always said the right people find each other at the right time." 6 months later, Jacob opened a small used car lot in the neighborhood where Eleanor had lived. It wasn't as luxurious as the previous one, but it was honest and welcoming. Chloe often played in the office after school, drawing colorful cars and smiling families. Christine visited her daughter twice a month, always accompanied by Bernadette. The relationship was slowly rebuilding, with patience and a lot of dialogue. Chloe had learned to forgive, inspired by the stories Eleanor told about second chances. One December afternoon, Jacob found Chloe in the backyard, humming a song he didn't recognize. "What's that song, little one?" "It's a song Grandma Eleanor used to sing. She said that when people truly love each other, they always find each other, even when they seem lost." Jacob picked her up, looking at the sky where the first stars were beginning to appear. "You know something, Chloe? I think your Grandma Eleanor is very proud of us." "I know she is," she replied, snuggling into his arms, "because every night I tell her about my day, and she sends me kisses on the wind." That night, as he put Chloe to sleep, Jacob understood that sometimes we lose important people only to find others who make us whole. His grandmother was physically gone, but she had left the greatest gift possible: a second chance to be a family, to love unconditionally, and to understand that true wealth was not in the businesses he built, but in the bonds he chose to cultivate. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment on what you thought of my story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.